I'd like to welcome you to Pilot Season 2, another year, another opportunity for more greatness with our chair, Toru Masamune.
Is on? Ooh, there you go. Yes. So thank you for coming out tonight. It's really great to have you here. Well, I, for one, am very excited about tonight. We have like a truly extraordinary group of individuals here who took time out of their insane schedules, because this is like February 7th, right? And it's right in the middle of pilot season. So they took time out of their insane schedules to be with us here tonight. So. We really appreciate that. The topic, of course, tonight is pilot season. Now, this is a term that, of course, all of us have heard bandied about, forever, right? Yet, a lot of us don't really know exactly what this is, or what exactly is going on at this time, or what exactly we as actors should be doing. We did this event about 2 years ago. And much has changed. Well, other than the fact I still haven't booked a pilot gig. Much has changed since then. And these folks are going to very generously offer their insight into it. So let's just start with the basics here. So pilot season is happening right now as we speak, right? So maybe we can start. I was thinking, I know Juan and Liz are kind of more on the inception end of this process. So maybe you can start us out, explain us what is a pilot, how does this thing whole start, and when do actors come into play? Either one, whoever wants to pick it up.
Sure, I can.
Yeah, I think you had to push it up there.
Better?
Yeah.
That's why I'm a suit. I don't know how to work a microphone.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that is it's a very, very broad question, but so I'll speak in generalities and I'll try to get a little bit more specific. So, broadcast television is still on the pilot system, which is basically, let's go try to produce, in my case, a 1-hour example of what this show could be, right? It usually becomes the first show of the season, that first episode of the season. Sometimes it doesn't. But the purpose of it is to convince the network, the studio producers, to convince the network and say, hey, invest money in this, invest whatever, $40, $50 million in putting this out there because we think it's going to get you ratings. So at the very, very core of it, that's what the pilot is. It's a marketing tool. It's an example of the potential of this show.
And people have approached you with ideas, or you
all the time. So
okay.
my job is to take the idea. So taking a step back.
Forget it.
So the way it works on a very almost rigid clock, to where we take pitches from all different, from producers and writers and everybody through the summer. We start in June and we go often into October. Then we commission some of those people to write pilots, so we'll have them take steps and write the outlines and write scripts. All of that goes through the end of the year. At the end of the year, the networks will say, out of the 50 things you developed, these 10 or 12 or sometimes 9, we are going to make a pilot. And when we get those commitments, it's what we are doing right now. So we're in pre-production for those pilots. And then, again, it's very rigid. We pre-production in February, we shoot in March, we post in April. At first or second week of May, they make a decision as to what goes to series. Then they go to New York, they present all their new shiny wares to the buyers, and then
those are the upfronts. Is that what you're talking?
At the upfronts, yes.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry. Good point. So a buyer is the advertising buying community, the people who are going to spend money. Those are the brands and the agencies that represent those brands. And there's this 1 week in New York, everybody shows up and you say, here's our new shows, and then the advertisers say, okay, I want to spend money on that show to sponsor it. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. And
That's the basics.
That was so helpful for me, for even me to hear, because I only know pilot season from my perspective. But to hear the whole side of it, I was like, oh wow, yeah. There's a lot that goes into it.
But the interesting part is that that's been the model for, I don't know, decades and decades, and that is changing.
yes.
Yeah.
So, most cable channels, certainly all the streamers, don't use that model at all. What is my everyday is actually becoming smaller and smaller, but it's still a humongous business. And as far as I can tell, there hasn't been much change, even though we talk about now we need to change this and it's kind of antiquated. There's not that much change.
Within the studio system.
In the broadcast networks.
Broadcast network.
Change is coming, though.
Okay, and we'll
Winter is
talk.
coming.
We'll talk about that later, how the change. But maybe. And so, Liz, when do you come into the process?
I come into the process when they have decided which scripts they're going to make, and I get a script, and I make a deal, and then I start to work. And it used to be that we'd have 10 weeks, and now the process has become that it's more about 6 weeks. I've done a pilot in 4 weeks.
Wow.
Because as pickups come and they are trickling in, luckily I got an early one this one, so I think I'm going to have like 7 weeks to do a pilot, even though I'm already on week 4. But it is, so I get the script, and then we break it down, and I start having dialogue with not only the producer, the director, but also the studio and the network. And my main job is not only the creative side, is getting the actors in, the best actors in front of my producer and director, but also getting everybody on the same page. And that's something that I don't think a lot of people know what casting directors do, is not only do we present actors, but we get our producers on the same page, our director, our studio executives, of which there are many, our network executive, of which there are many, and we're constantly messaging to everybody.
So you're basically a therapist.
I
is what
am.
you're
I
saying.
am a mom. I am a therapist. I am. We do it. We do it all. I was absolutely using that language today. I was like, I really hear you, and I can tell that you don't feel like your message is being received. It was 100% that. And that's part of it, because that's the great thing about this business, is we're in a business of personalities, and we're in a business of emotion, and that can be so great. And that also can be challenging at times. I get hundreds of emails a day. I have hundreds of phone calls, agents, managers, lawyers, and it's I do it because I love it, but absolutely, it's a roller coaster. It's an exciting. I want to talk all about why we still do this archaic system, because what happens is you get, sorry if I'm veering off track, but we have
that's great.
X amount of
Keep going.
actors who are available for pilot season, and then everyone gets a pilot, and we're all fighting over the same people. And I work with 4 other phenomenal casting directors, and we're all like, oh, you want that person? I want that person too. Wait, I'm starting a test here. And it gets frenzied, and then not all the pilots get picked up. So maybe this actor had we waited, would then be available. So it just is, from my perspective, I am waiting for the change. I'm excited.
There is a recasting whole
Yes.
section of things that happen,
True.
which
True.
is terrible because
Heartbreaking.
you think this has happened to the best of actors and happens often. Everybody says, oh, everybody gets fired at least once, and it's really because maybe they needed actor X, and actor X was already on a job, and then
Right.
they finally can get that person because their pilot didn't get picked up, and so you'll see recasting notices come out, and it's like it is
heartbreaking,
a
but it's part
frenzy
of
that
it.
I do not envy you guys for at all. We don't know any of that. We're just like, they cast me or not? Like we don't.
Give me a job.
And that frenzy is for actors, for directors of photography, for editors, and everybody gets taken. All the good ones get taken really quick, sort of like dating. But somebody explained it to me. It's like the NFL draft, except everybody picks at the same time. You know, so it's a crazy rumble. And to answer your question, I think the reason it still exists is because we still have these upfront meetings. They're on a date, and you want to show your best stuff to the advertisers, and everything backs off from that date. And until that changes, you know, people are going to say, no, it needs to change. And Kevin Riley, who was at Fox at the time, no, pilot season is dead. It's not dead, dude. It's exactly the same.
That's right.
So maybe if you could walk us through some of the, I think another term that, or maybe walk us through the process of, you know, how you find your actors and, you know, how you know, how they end up in test, you know, maybe just walk us through
Absolutely.
that. How do they end up on the show?
So I have a script and I send it to Breakdown, and they literally break down each role. For the one pilot I'm doing now, I have 8 series regulars, and so they write descriptions and I help write it. Here are my 8 series regulars. I need and then I release the breakdowns to agents and managers. We have a casting director in New York looking, Australia, Atlanta, the UK. So we're literally doing an international search. And then I get the submissions. It's all online now. It used to be all paper, which I am so thankful. I'm so thankful. And I go through thousands of submissions, thousands. I think for one role, a pretty specific role, you know, woman, mid-30s, any ethnicity, just LA, 3,000. Just Los Angeles. And I look through every single picture. And I do it, oh, thank you, but that's my job. I mean, I do it alphabetically, so I'm not like, I don't do it by agency, so I don't know if you're with the best agency or with, you know, your uncle. I look through every single, your uncle might be great, by the way, whoever gets you out there. But I look through every submission, and then I pick. For a pilot, it's more. For a pilot, I will see more people. If this was one episode of television, I would pick about 8 out of those to show my producers.
Wow.
During pilot season, I'll see much more than that, and I will also pre-read a lot more. And then depending on how I'll send my first, and then also there are also all the actors who won't audition that we consider as offers, which is absolutely a big part of pilot season. Or who will meet, or who will Skype meet, who would meet and then read. I mean, it is so much like dating. Everyone wants to feel each other out because it's a big deal, especially in network. You're looking at actors who have been in many series. We're like, who do I want to spend the next 6 years of my life with? 22 episodes. You know, it's different in cable, and I mean, I think everyone in this room is probably like, that sounds great. It sounds great to me too. I would love it. But you know, and there are people also. Not a lot of things shoot here in Los Angeles, so it means picking up and leaving your family or moving your family. You have kids in school, so there's just a lot to think about, and there's a lot to process for everybody on all sides. So. Let's say we have a session and we don't make an offer, and there are 3 people we want to test. Now, testing is when you tape them in a very professional setting, and you show that tape to your studio first. And you say, here are our 3 actors, we love them all. What's your opinion? And you talk about it. And they say, we love all 3 of these, let's send them up to network. Or we really love A and B, but C, we're not feeling it. Okay, so sadly, C gets cut, and we send A and B up to network. And we all talk about it. And the network, oh, A is really great, oh, B has this, and B, and then it could be, oh, you know what? In the other role, we just cast someone, reminds me too much of B. So let's go with A. And it could be that. Sometimes it's not clear, sometimes it's really clear who it is. Sometimes there's just such a, like, obviously it's A. But that doesn't always happen. So that's the testing process. Did that make sense? Does anyone need any clarity on the testing process? Because I know it's a weird, you can ask, are they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to just jump in because what's interesting from a union perspective when you go into the test process is you actually negotiate your deal as if the part is yours without knowing it is. So basically, we're not really giving you an offer, but we're kind of making your deal. And so you are committing before you know the part is yours. So as far as the union, my colleagues and I spend a lot of time during pilot season talking with the agents. Every year or so, I'd say, depending on the studio, the forms will change. We'll get calls about new language in the forms and is this acceptable? And we spend a great deal of time sort of coaching and suggesting, and then when the coast is clear, calling the companies or filing grievances depending on the situation, because obviously our role at the union is to protect our performers, and depending on the studios, they get very creative in the language. So that's our role in this process, but I just wanted to share for those who haven't gone through the test process that and just to understand, and someday someone will test this out legally, and maybe it'll be one of you. The reason it's done this way is the leverage isn't there yet on your side. If you know they want you, you're going to have more leverage to negotiate a little bit more. But when you don't know, it's, well, everybody else has agreed to this. You're the only one. And you're like, but this is my first series. I better agree to it, just agree to it. So it's tough for an actor. I mean, it's tough. And we're here to support. And obviously, we set the minimums in our collective bargaining agreement. And the agent is obviously negotiating where possible, he or she, above the minimum. So it really is a team effort between the union, the agents, their managers, their lawyers, and it's a process every season. It's a busy time.
I had a question on contracts. Now, if an actor is fortunate enough to get through the process and get that far in the process, how are they limiting themselves in terms of I don't know, doing other shows, movies? What as they get further along, what are they actually? Yeah, what are the limitations they're imposing upon themselves by accepting contracts, et cetera?
You want me to take this
Or-
one, or do you want? Because I'm happy to tell the union thing, and if you guys have stuff you
Yeah,
want
you
to
can tell
add.
how you guys have handled things in the
Okay,
past.
so once you get to certain what we call money breaks in the collective bargaining agreement, and so I don't want to get too weedy, but $15,000 an episode for a half hour, $20,000 for an hour, you are allowed to negotiate exclusivity, what they can negotiate for maximum exclusivity. So on a network show where you're still doing 22 episodes, if you're giving maximum exclusivity, it's a little less painful than when you're on a cable show and there's 7 episodes and you're making that, because you do the math, 7 times, say, 20, sounds, I'm making 140, great, but when you're held off the market and can't do anything and you're giving your 10%, et cetera, it can get, I know, I've left out the managers, and I didn't put in the lawyers 5, I didn't put the publicist in, but
Donut basket to your casting
director.
director.
The taxes, the state of California, but once you get to 20,000, the donuts to casting, every week that Liz wants, and some flowers, it gets challenging. So one of the areas your agent is going to spend a bit of time on, particularly more for cable than for network, is in the area for exclusivity, because the actors you see up here, they want flexibility when their show isn't shooting. A studio doesn't want to see you on another network because they've invested money in this show, and they kind of want you, they get very jealous, for lack of a better word. It's like you're theirs.
What about
Possessive?
for movies and commercials? Movies and commercials, are those?
Movies, I don't. This is pilot season, and movies don't have
Okay, so in other words, you're
pilot
free to do as
season.
many movies
And
or commercials you want.
Like you're talking like, can you do movies? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
I thought you were saying with their exclusivity.
Oh,
in
no, no,
movies.
no, no.
Okay.
If you
yes,
get-
like that's what you're going to negotiate. Like they're going to put generally that you agree not to do another series with a similar character during the time, and depending on your leverage and where you are and the order of a show, when the show isn't shooting, that's when most of our actors do movies. From my experience, and Liz and Juan can jump in, it's not so much the movie, it's more about if I'm ABC, I don't want to see you on FX in like an arc. Maybe they'll let you, if you, for the maximum, do 1 or 2 episodes. They get very unhappy when it goes over 1 or 2. That's at least our experience that we see at SAG-AFTRA. So there's always a tension when you get to that point, that you want some freedom, even though you're so happy to be on a series, and they want to kind of keep you. So
You can carve things out.
Yeah,
if
you
it's a
can carve.
pre-existing. If there's a character that you've recurred with before you've engaged in that contract, you can oftentimes carve it out. But again, they own your schedule. And they can change it at any time. So if it's raining tomorrow and they have to change your days of work, you have to know that who your boss really is.
Look, I don't know about the legalities of because I'm just the creative guy. but I do know this. There is a tension between the desire to be able to have somebody there ready for when production needs them. Yes. There's that element of it. And then there's a desire to keep our artists happy because you're going to get better work and you're going to get more people wanting to work with you. And then there's also the desire, if somebody is going to be in a movie and it's actually going to get good publicity, it's actually good for our series too. So these are all factors that, sure, there are rules, but there's also some flexibility because I know for a fact, oftentimes, we say like, well, this person is needed on this set here, but there's this other thing. And then the 2 line producers will get together and try to hammer it out as best they can. So to the best of our ability, we try to accommodate.
And I love that we have the creative person here because now I'm going to call Juan when there's a problem because that is a very open, and I like that because when you deal with labor relations, it's not always as open.
I'm sure they're not as fun.
But I like what you're saying because that's helpful.
The other thing is, like, don't be a jerk, dude. Like, if you're a good person and you do the best work you can and you show up every day and you're grateful to be there, people are going to work with you. They're going to have your back. They're going to want you to be able to work on other things. I'm sure many of the people who've worked in this room have worked with both kinds of actors.
Yeah.
And if you were in his position, what would you do?
Right. No, it's a good. It's a human business, obviously. It's relationship driven. So clearly, when you have a relationship and you like someone, and and that's what our role is. We have relationships with all the companies, and we have, for the most part, very positive. So you're doing that dance of saying this performer really would like to get this opportunity to do this other show. I mean, that's what we spend, believe it or not, time doing now. Because of the short orders on cable, a great deal of my time is actually spent making pleas so an actor can take another role because their contract says they can't, but they're sitting off the market and they really want that creative. So it's, and to Juan's point, I think they do. It's a tension, and we get it in that it's a tension of we've invested a lot of money in the show and a lot of time, and we want our client, actor associated with our show, and so it's a balance, I think. And it's to Janina's point, if you have a good relationship with your show, hopefully that will go a long while, toward having some flexibility. And casting sort of stuck in the middle because they really want to be able to give each show what they want. And it's a real tension, at least I feel it in our day-to-day, that I don't think existed 10 years ago before we had all these platforms vying for actors, so.
So I'm kind of curious because I've always wondered, who's making all the decisions along the way? I mean, who's in control here? As far as I mean, is it all committee, or is it there's one person that says, all right, I like.
Do you
this
mean
guy.
who's choosing actors? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. I mean, in terms of the casting process, who are the decision makers?
So there's the point of who's going to get seen first. I make that choice. And then once the producers, who do we want to move forward? That is collaborative between the producers and the director. Like, for example, on Designated Survivor, that I had 6 executive producers, plus Kiefer, plus the director. And so that was a process. That was a big process.
God
but
bless you.
but we got there, and we got a great cast. And then it goes, okay, we got it. Here's who we're going to go to studio. And then studio, everybody weighs in. And these days, I don't know if this is all the time or if it's just how it happens for me. We've been sending tapes, and then everyone kind of emails their thoughts. Everyone's like, I liked him, I didn't like him, I like this person, I like this person.
But I'll let you in on a little secret on that. This is a little behind the curtains.
Oh, I like it, great.
So the way it works is,
Yeah.
this morning, I get an email like, what about this person for this role? I'm like, oh, cool. So I click, and I watch the test. I'm like, oh, I thought this person, and I'm like, oh, wait, my boss hasn't chimed in yet. What if I say something? What if I say I loved her and he hated her? So there is this weird dance,
Yeah.
and it's funny. And again, it's human nature, right? And I usually don't care. I'm like, screw it, I loved her,
Yeah.
But that starts a conversation. That lasts about a day,
Right.
and then ultimately somebody's like, okay, we're taking
Yeah.
her up to network,
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
And then that's the next step. That's the people who really make the decisions are the buyers. They're, at least in my case, the network. They're the ultimate decision makers. We as a studio go in with our producers and our casting directors, and we make recommendations. Here's 3 options you have, but the network is the one that pulls the trigger.
I have a question for our actors. Now, you guys have gotten through the process. I mean, how'd you get through this? I mean, as far as like creating your characters, or what do you think is the difference in the times that you've gotten through as far as you did, and the times that, it didn't quite work? Do you feel like your process in terms of how you approach trying to get that role changes?
I'm so nervous. It's my first time speaking to
Yeah, John's very shy, so you have to be very kind, all right?
No, the difference between getting through and not getting through for me has always been pretty much preparation. I know that a lot of times we think that people get lucky when they get their job, but I think that luck is just, we've heard this a million times, preparation meets opportunity. So you have to be prepared when you go in for even when you're just going in to see Liz before the test, before the studio. I remember a lot of actors used to, just kind of throw away the pre-read and then wait until they're going to go to producers to really lock in their audition. But I think you have to go in. I always go in as if I've already gotten the job. So I'm always, and I know that there are a million acting classes out there, and even casting directors have workshops and things, and they say, never be off book, have your sides with you. I don't bring my sides with me because I'm off book. I've gotten the job already. That's how I go in. Like, I've already gotten the job. I'm going to show you exactly how I would do it. And then that makes their decision that much easier. They can direct you, and hopefully you can take direction, and hopefully you might be really married to what you're doing. She's wrong. Yeah, exactly. So, you go in being pliable enough to be directed, but you go in showing them, this is what I do. This is my take on the character. You've really invested in knowing your character's wants and needs and obstacles, and you go in and you say, this is what I would do to get my character to where it needs to be by the end of the story, and hopefully so I know that when I've failed, I was not as prepared as I should have been. I was thinking about something else, like drinking, surfing, or what it would be like to surf. I don't surf.
For me, it's not about getting through or not.
Yeah.
I love pilot season, man. Like, there are days when I'll have 3 auditions and all these women are so different, and I'm so excited to pack my car with the various people that I've decided that I'm going to present that day. You know, I love that stuff. And there are so many times, there are more times than not, that I've definitely not been hired, but I loved who she was. And, you know, even today, like I had an audition for something and I have no idea if I'm going to get it or not. It doesn't matter because I went in and I did exactly what I wanted to do. And at this point in my career, I'm like, you may know me, you may not know me, but I'm going to show you what I would do on the day. And you either are into it or you're not. That's fine. That's totally fine. And as we can hear, there are so many other variables that have nothing to do with me. So I've just decided we're all in this together because we are. And you leave it on the table and you walk away. That's it.
For Juan and Liz, what happens when the characters that you guys envisioned from the script is completely different from what the actor brings in, but what the actor brings in is awesome? What happens there?
I love that.
Nirvana.
I love it so much when an actor can come in and completely turn it on its head. For Good Girls, I was looking for a boy to play Mae Whitman's son. And I was looking and this wasn't one quite. And I was like, to Jenna Bans, I was like, what if it's a girl? She's like, what if it's a girl? I'm like, yeah, what if it's a girl? And I found just this fantastic girl. And that wasn't the case. That's kind of not your question, but it was sort of the reframing. Because that's what we do. I mean, the script is just one person's idea of what it could be. And what's so exciting about this process is that you get the opportunity to come and say, to be a version of that, your best version of that. And it might not be exactly what the writer had in their mind, but if it's your truth, it's so exciting to see. It's really exciting to watch.
I completely agree. When an actor takes the words on the page and elevates it in a different way, it's so refreshing, particularly in a sea of sameness. Like, and they're all good, and then there's this one person that stands out. It's refreshing, and just even in the room dynamics. Because the one thing I didn't talk to is sort of that final meeting with the network. It's super awkward. The producers come in, there's these weird hugs, and we all sit down, and the room goes dark, and we go through the thing. And then there's this pause for like 5 seconds, and what did you guys think? And then nobody knows who to speak, who goes first. The whole thing is terrible. But a great topic of conversation is like, well, that person did it so differently and so interestingly. And oftentimes, even if that person took a swing and actually doesn't get it, you're like, well, what about for this other show? Or what about like, your mind is already racing. So it's more often than not, it's a very positive thing.
And I will just say, just because I know it can be a little misinterpreted, we want you to do the best version of that. Don't be different just for the sake of, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to stand out. It needs to speak to the truth of the role.
Yes.
And I have a lot of people who come in and be like, wacky because they've heard this. They're like, how am I going to stand out? How am I going to stand out? If it is not organic to the scene or the character, that's not going to get you the role. We're talking about being different just by being you, because we're all different. We could all read the same script, and there would be however many, like 100 different ways. So I just want you to kind of reinvest in yourself and not think like, how am I going to stand out? But how am I going to do this the best way I know how to do this? And I want to make sure everyone knows that.
Yeah, I was thinking that those are my thoughts too, you know. I know I've seen your guys' work, and you know, I think the Generation Kill character, or Poppy, I think, you know, I mean, those are, I mean, talk about interesting. I mean, those are really off the charts. So, I mean, what's your process? How do you make a character interesting off the page?
Well, you mentioned Generation Kill. I have a little bit of a story behind that. So that I was in the military before. I was an actor for like 8 years. Thank you. Thank you. You're welcome. But I wasn't doing it to get that. But back when Generation Kill was being cast, I used to get scripts that were military-based scripts, and they were written by writers who didn't have any knowledge about the military, and everything was always just terrible in the script. And also, it was before a lot of the the inclusion talk that we're doing now, and roles for adult male Latinos were not written very well because they weren't written by Latino writers, and nobody even considered doing any research. So I got these sides. They wouldn't release the scripts, and I got these sides for this HBO project. And I had done an HBO movie years before that was just absolutely horrible. This is before HBO was doing like really good stuff. So I thought this was another one of those projects because I read these sides and I read, this Latino guy. I'm like, no Latino talks like that. It's ridiculous. It's fucking angry. And I didn't actually need the job. I was, I would love to have a job, but I didn't need it. And so I was almost gonna not go in. And then I would read the military stuff. And I'm like, this shit doesn't happen, man. I can't believe they're even making this fucking thing. So I was angry. I was really angry when I went in. And I decided, fuck it, I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna do it angry. I'm gonna do it like how I feel right now. I don't care. So I did it as angry, and then a year goes by. Of course, I didn't hear anything back. I was like, I don't care. I didn't want that job anyway. So a year goes by. I get a call. The HBO wants to have a meeting with you. I go in. I meet with some people at HBO, some creative executives, and the head of casting there. And they said, we want. There's this job that we think you're perfect for, but you got to be ready to go in on Saturday and meet with David Simon. He's only going to be here on Saturday morning. You have to be there Saturday morning. So if I was planning on going to the gym or going to Paso Robles, do some tasting, whatever, I got to put that on hold and go talk to David Simon. And I'm like, what project? And they said, Generation Kill. Generation Kill? I don't remember that title. They're like, yeah, you read for it. I was like, yeah, that's right. And they said, David Simon's involved in that? So they said, yeah, we just think you're perfect for Aspera. And I started thinking, like, wait a minute, I read for a character named Rudolfo Reyes, Fruity Rudy. And they were like, and I said, didn't I read for I read for like a Fruity Rudy character or something like that. They were like, yeah, you're not right for him. You're right for Aspera. He's the angry Mexican who hates the white man. But I will say, I was so committed to being the angry Latino mad at the white man that they remembered me, and because it took a year for them to cast that. So what I'm saying is, always go in and nail it no matter what, because you'll always make a fan if you do that, whether or not you get the job or not. It's about making fans. Liz will tell you, like, she calls back a lot of the same people because they've been present. He says somebody does something different in a test, they'll remember that person for another job, or when pilot season comes back around. So I don't like to believe that there's any such thing as rejection when it comes to being an actor. And a lot of times before people move out to LA, they're told, or move out to New York, or wherever they're gonna go to start their career, you better be ready for rejection as an actor, because you're gonna get a lot of no's. I just feel like that wasn't my job. It wasn't the right job for me. You know what I mean? So nothing is rejection. Just always enjoy the process and love auditioning. Like she said, she loves putting all four of her personalities and characters.
Did not say they were my personalities. I said they were different characters than who I am.
Mm-hmm. So she, I love the audition process. I just think it's an opportunity for me to perform. Every character is going to be different, hopefully, or you figure out how to make it different. But always go in loving what you're doing, having a good time, and you'll make fans. And if you don't get a pilot the first time you go out, the second time, the third year, the fourth year, the fifth year, it might be the 10th year. But just always have a good time.
And leave it in the room, man. I mean, I've had like chemistry tests with some actors that I have adored for years and years and would die to work with, and I've taken direction from some brilliant directors, and you can't tell me that I didn't do my best work in that room. Doesn't mean they didn't need me. Also, you can't outact fame. Okay, so if they're gonna pick the chick that's more famous than me, I can't hate you for that. You're gonna do that. I can't do, you know what I mean? So, but like if a tree falls in the forest, did it not fall? Did it not make a noise? Make the loudest fucking noise in your forest that you want. Be the loudest goddamn tree that you can be, because you only get one shot, man. So
I love that song.
Love it. What'd you say? Oh, one shot. It's
You only
your
get
chance
one
to blow.
shot.
This
Chance to
opportunity
blow.
comes
An
once
opportunity
in a
knocks.
lifetime.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know that song. Quit playing.
Oh my God. Yeah, more on that later. Okay, so, but the other thing is like long game strong, right? It's not about this pilot season. It's not about next pilot season. It's not about this pilot, tomorrow's pilot, the day after's pilot. If you want to be an actor, be an actor. You do it every day. It is a blessing to be able to get sent sides that somebody wrote. If you don't love it, get out of here. Get out of the way of somebody who loves it.
Preach.
Ouch.
It's true.
Great. Awesome. Wow.
My smug little...
Yes, there you go.
Can
Great.
I just say one thing that
I
John
do,
said? Oh, sorry. The one thing I love what you said about that it's not rejection, because if I could tell you, if I could bring books of, like, I write notes about everybody, of the people this is a safe space, right? No one's going to tweet this.
Yeah.
No, that's not a camera right there at all. Don't worry.
Just kidding. There are actors who are super famous right now where I look back and I was like, fine. I mean, it's because I caught them early in their career, or on a day where they were not at their best, or on a day where they just weren't right, or for a role that they were not right. And I look at those actors and I laugh because, and maybe this is egotistical of me, but maybe it's like because they didn't get the role on Jack and Bobby or Everwood, they worked a little harder. And they got a little better. Or maybe they started taking class. Or maybe they, like, because they didn't get that job, it left them open for that opportunity. So it's not rejection, it's what? It's an what was the word you said?
It's not rejection, it just wasn't your job.
Wasn't your job. So all those wasn't your jobs I truly believe, are going to get you to your job. And it's just, you have to believe that the wasn't your jobs, which is what I'm always going to call it right now, forever, because I love it. Thank you, John. It's part of the process. It is like dating. It is all those toads, ladies, right? All those toads, frogs that we kissed, and gentlemen, are going to get us to that right person, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I really love that idea of, I feel like we're so obsessed with rejection on all levels, right? That we just think it's a bad thing, but it's just part of the process, So I really love what you guys are saying. And actually, maybe what I'd like to do is maybe talk on a bigger level, on a even, I've been looking at some of these numbers. I mean, we're up to what, 450? How many scripted shows do we have? Like 400? Oh. We're up to 500 now?
Yeah, some between 400 and 500.
So it's kind of crazy. I hear Apple's putting $1 billion into it. They might buy Netflix, I've heard. Read somewhere that there's crazy things going on. I know that show Altered Carbon, I guess, is going after a huge international audience. There are all these different things going on. So my question is, what does it take for, someone to get someone to take like 30 minutes, 1 hour of their time repeatedly out of their day and watch a show? What does it take to make a show a hit? And what is needed from the actors to make this happen? So that's sort of my question on that. So I'm just wondering how that's changed. How
Oh, this one's for me.
I guess so, yeah. But even for everybody,
you
'cause
came
I think
in with
we're
an
all
answer to
involved
this
in that
question.
process of, right? You guys are in hit shows. I mean, they're processes. You've all had hit shows. So how did that happen? What is required of everybody to make that happen?
Well, to answer the basic question is, what do you have to do to get a hit show? My simple answer is, that's what I do all day long, and I have no idea. But I know this, that there is a commonality in most hit shows, and that is unforgettable characters that you desperately want to succeed or to finally be together with somebody, or somebody who you want to invite into your home. That is across all success. And that's where you guys come in, because what's on the page is certainly lying there. And what we were talking about earlier, just taking that and elevating it, that is what was going to get you there. Everything else is just things that support that, but that is at the heart of what makes a show that people love and tell their friends about, and their friends tell their friends about. That's how success builds.
I think that it is, it's every element of the show, from the actors, the directors, the writers, the studio executives, casting, guest stars, crew, first of all loving what they're doing and coming together to be great storytellers, because every single person involved in the show is part of this being the storyteller. And I think that's what's important. I think that's what we have to look at I know that's what he probably looks at when he's choosing what pilot to do. How is a story being told? And that's what it's about. It's got to speak to enough people out there that want to keep turning the page of that story. I want to know what the next chapter is going to be. So it's got to be everybody coming together and working towards making such an amazing story.
There's one thing, now this is a pilot season conversation, so I'll keep this as short as possible. There is an entire other thing here about rationing your energy as you work through a season. That is something that nobody can teach you in theater school. Even just getting through a day. If you're working a 16-hour day, learning how to ration your energy from the moment that you wake up, and if you're a girl, you're at lady o'clock at 5:30 in the morning while they try to make you look the same as you did yesterday, God bless us all. And making sure that your performance is unshaking from the beginning of that day to the end of that day to the next week, to the next week, to the month, to the month, to the month. I mean, you work on these shows 10 to 11 months out of the year, and you are the energy of all of the people around you. And it's a weird thing when you're an actor, and maybe it's just because the camera is on you the whole day and your crew can feel your energy, but you can look at it like pressure, or you can look at it like an honor. But they are getting paid so much less than you, and they're working more days than you, guaranteed. So you better show up so happy and so grateful to be there and carry that load with them. And people who are sitting at home can feel it. That's all I gotta say.
I think, oh, sorry, I was just
No, no.
going to say what John was, what makes a hit. I think that's what everyone is chasing. You know, after Lost, all the pilots that came out were like Lost. This Is Us, big hit. That everyone's chasing the next, where's our This Is Us? And ultimately, I think it's what Juan said, it's like, you have to write a great script, you have to get a great cast, and top to bottom. I've worked on pilots that I was like, this is totally gonna go, because it's a great script, and it's great, and somewhere along the line, it wasn't a great pilot. It didn't come out as a great pilot. And you know, some people say, well, that's luck, but it isn't luck, as we've talked about. There's a million places where a pilot can fail. So it's up to all of us to make sure that we do our best and that it doesn't. But it's like, you really can't predict what the next hit is going to be. I don't think anyone thought that This Is Us was going to be the phenomenon that it is, but it hit the zeitgeist and it hit people at the right time, and it's exactly what people wanted to see.
It's so
John
good.
Huertas.
It's so good. We're so jealous. Seriously.
John.
It's all John. You got it. Oh, I know. You just need to have John in your pilot. Yeah. There you go.
That's the key. You just have John in your pilot. Would you say that all this competition has raised the bar? Would you say that? Because I don't know, the shows just seem so good now, and I'm wondering, is that because it's really competitive? Is that what's going on?
No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. You know, good enough is not good enough.
Yeah,
From every aspect, visually, certainly performance-wise. You know, I worked on Marvel shows. You're supposed to make those look like the movies with like a tiny budget.
Yeah.
You know, it's really hard, and it gets harder. But that's good. That's.
It attracts better actors.
Exactly.
I mean, everyone the TV does not have the stigma that it used to.
That's exactly right. I mean, I love it. I love that we're doing, you know, the kinds of things that 10 years ago were like, no, forget that. That's you can't do that. And we are, and we're going to have to continue to improve. So, you know, that's what I get up in the morning for every day.
Yeah. No, you can do. Hey, you can do whatever.
I want to ask something because I have a feeling people in this room may have this question, because I have this question because a show comes to us, people are now testing. I think maybe on behalf of people here, because people are at various levels in their career, how do they get in the door to be one of the people who test? Because you hear of people who maybe are straight out of Juilliard, who make it, and maybe they get noticed, so they get that big agent who gets them in, but if you're not, in that category, is it required that you've been seen by you, Liz, and you've reoccurred for them? Like, will a network take someone who's never been on a series to be a series regular? I kind of think maybe for people in the room, it would be so helpful to hear, how do you break through? Because we see, many of the same actors over and over, and we're really at a point where shows are looking to be more inclusive in casting, and there's so much talent that isn't getting seen. How do we get them in the room if they don't yet have a top 5 agent? If maybe they just have a manager? Maybe can we talk about that?
Absolutely, and it's obviously a question that. Thank you. Yeah, it's obviously a question that everybody asks at every stage. Before I was a casting director, how do I become a casting director? How do I get in? How do I have people? It's the same, and the answer is being good. You got to be great. You got to be good, and if you don't have that agent, get in a play, make your own. I mean, especially today when there's so much digital content, make your own movie. Put on your own play, not only just to be seen, but for your soul, because you're actors, you're artists, and if you're not doing it, it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good to just sit around. I've seen so many actors or a manager is like, it's a 15-minute film. I will absolutely watch a 15-minute film. Even better if it's a 10-minute film. But I will watch my whole day, if I'm not in session, is watching tapes, get a good demo tape together. You don't even have to have been anything. Create your own demo tape. I don't care if that was if you were actually on True Blood, or I just want to see your version of it. Have it look professional. Anybody in this room could get 3 scenes together on tape. Anybody. And it's have your manager or somebody send that to me, and I'll watch that. And
Oh, no, I was going to say, I just wanted to clarify. So unsolicited tapes is an acceptable practice?
I mean, it's hard. Look, unsolicited tapes. I'm not going to say, yes, whole world, I love unsolicited tapes. Having an agent or a manager is... Through
your agent or
and
manager.
also because I have the relationships with them. So when a manager that I love calls me and says, oh my gosh, you have to meet this guy. He's brand new, but he's got something. I'm like, great, send me his stuff. And I'll watch his stuff. And if he or she, the manager, is right, and this person is great, I will absolutely bring that person in and read that person in, just to pre-read. John's asking me to meet his friend. I'm happy to meet your friend. Like I do generals. I put myself out there because I, as a viewer, also do not want to see the same actors over and over again. It's so exciting when you're like, oh, where did that person come from? But what you guys can do is be great. And not just be like, yeah, that's pretty good. But like, you gotta be great, because I'm not gonna lie, there's so much competition. There's so many other actors who want it just as much as you do.
Can I follow up
please.
with a question? So if you are someone who, I don't have a manager or agent yet, but I am great.
I would get in a play.
What can they do to have you or any casting see them?
I think you start doing theater, you start doing your own, and everyone's on a computer. So get your videos out there, get in a great play. Agents and casting directors and managers, we see plays all the time. All the time. I know there's a lot of controversy with workshops. That's how I got into casting. So that's a whole other panel.
Yeah, right,
we could talk about
exactly.
workshops, but I was an actor who did casting director workshops, and I did them, and I met all these casting directors, and I was like, oh, I like what you do. And I started interning, and that's how so personally, I know it's a hot topic, I think casting director workshops are invaluable. It's how I've met so many actors that I love dearly to this day, because I got to see them work. I got to see a ton of actors work. But that doesn't really answer your question. That's another.
I'm trying to think about what the room and what maybe what you did to, like, how did you, because this is, people are trying to figure out, how do I get to the point when I'm going to get the test?
Well, what she said, I mean, she said, do theater. You're an act. Both of them said, if you're an actor, act. Find a way to act. Do plays. Do workshops. Make your own films. Get those films into film festivals. So there are tons of film festivals now, and agents and managers and cast directors go see films. They go to festivals and they go to see plays, and then you'll hopefully, if you're great on stage, then that person will wait for you after you get off stage, and they will say, "Hey, are you represented?" And then that person will send you, when they figure out what you do, what you're best at, get all your materials together, and they'll send them to her, and you will start getting auditions, and she will remember you as a fan. She'll be a fan. Like Robert Ulrich, actually, one of her partners. He's one of my champions. When I first moved here, I went in and auditioned for him, and I had a very small boutique agent, and he stopped me and he said, "Hey, I want you to wait after everyone's done. I want to talk to you." So he called me into his office, and he asked all about me. He said he thought I was really good. You're not going to get this job, but you're really good, and I think you should just stick with it and keep doing the best you can, be in a class. And then every time, like, I would go straight to producers on jobs that I shouldn't have been going in for. I'd be going in for, like, everyone else in the room is a heavy-set white dude, and here I come. Hey. But it's because Robert just wanted to put me in front of people. And I'll never forget that, and that's because I did my best when I went in that room, when I finally got that audition for that guy, probably for a co-starring role or one line or something. He was like, "Yo, let me talk to you." So he proved to me that if I do the best that I can, I'm going to make a fan of him, and then that person will keep calling you back, and that's why I think it happens.
I had an interesting, you're talking about, we know the levels, co-stars, guest stars, et cetera. Is there a perception of this actor does co-stars, this actor is a series lead, this actor is whatever, and is this something that actors should be conscious of? Like you always hear about going to the next level, and I'm just wondering, is that the perception, or you're just saying, if we see great work, we'll stick you on this series or whatever? Because so maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I think work is work, and I think I would not, especially if I was the beginning of my career, I would not pass on a co-star role because I don't want to be seen as a co-star. And also co-stars turn into guest stars. They turn into recurring. Like on Major Crimes, all the time we would have co-stars, and the producers were like, "We love that guy." And they would come back, and they would get more and more dialogue. So what does Shonda say, like the year of yes or something? Like, look, you don't say yes to everything, but if it's something you want to do, I wouldn't not do something because I don't want to be perceived that way.
Yeah.
If you want to act, you should act.
I guess my question was, how important is perception in this town versus the work? Does that make sense?
The only perception anybody should be worried about is how great they are. You can say two words and be a superstar.
Yeah.
I mean, I have so many times seen somebody come into a show that I've been a regular on, and they have they walk in and you're like, "God,
Yeah.
damn, that person is a beast."
Yeah.
I'll be like, "So what do? You like improv? You like to play? Are you sure right now?" I have seen so many co-stars, plays or improv or sketch comedy. I worked in New York for 2 years, and most of the time I was like, "You're great. What are you in right now? How do I see your work?" Because they're just great, and all they did was come say 2 words.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. That's the only thing you should be worried about. Your own greatness. That's it.
Good. Great. Excellent answer.
You left them
I'm so
speechless,
sorry. I
girl.
just say things with such confidence, and then I
Yes.
put my mic down, and I'm like, "Did I mean that?"
No. I was convinced. I'm sold.
But then I'm like, "Nah, I mean it. I mean it."
I know. This is maybe, obviously this is great. I mean, it's really a great thing to be with people who have really. I mean, you guys have really found your way nice and deep into the game, and I'm just wondering, was there a point, and this goes along with everybody, where you just decided that it's just your time and you just made the move? I mean, I'm just wondering the path. Is it sort of like something you decided, okay, now's my time, I'm going to do this, and you made changes, or do you just feel like I just want to get a sense of that process. I just kind of feel like there's so many ups and downs. I feel like we go through so much ups and downs. And
Long game strong.
What did you
What did I
say?
say? Long game strong.
Long game strong.
long
So
game
you kind of feel like you've always just
I,
chipped away.
No, I think focus. So I studied musical theater.
Yeah.
So when I moved here, I didn't go to New York like I should have to do musical theater. I came here to do TV and film, but I was also I could dance. I was a dancer. I could sing. So I just wanted to perform, just be, yeah. If you want to be an actor, act. But I wanted to be an actor, dancer, and singer. So I did all of that at the same time while I was here, and I spread myself really thin. And I was auditioning for dance jobs. I was auditioning, being in a singing group, trying to get a record deal. Like I was doing all these different things, and I finally, geez, that was loud. And I finally decided that I need to focus. I need to focus on what is my passion, what I really want to do. I want to be an actor. Where am I? First of all, I was like, you know what? I'm not. There aren't a lot of, great musical theater plays cast out here. So I want to be an actor on TV and film. I focused, and I got into the best class that I could, as many classes as I could. I took improv. I went through the Groundlings. I was in a scene study class, and I treated my scene study class like a gym. I kind of treated it like being an athlete. These pro football players, they don't just, when the game's over, go home and sit down and wait for the next game. They train.
Yeah.
They train, so they can be super athletes. When you become a series regular on TV or you're doing movies at a certain level, you are a super athlete.
Yep.
So you need to be always training.
Always training.
And so that's what I did. I focused, and that's when my career started actually growing, and I started booking more and working more when I focused. So I think it takes focus, and again, back to what we keep saying, is just being the best one in the room when it's time for you to go in the room. And you were the best one they saw, and you'll get that job.
And one thing that's really interesting, because I've always felt this, is that it always seems like the more successful you are, the harder it gets, because there are other requirements and time management. All you guys, I mean.
Yeah. Now I got to audition against John Leguizamo. That motherfucker's dope.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Now we look the same age. He's a lot older than me.
and-
Another
I'm
weird
just-
thing is that as you go through your career, people saw you be good in one thing and they want you to be that person again. So if you're the type of actor, I'm the type of actor, I'm not trying to play myself. That is so boring.
Yeah.
So when I fell out of theater school, and I was so lucky that the L Word let me play someone that was a completely different
That was
person
good.
than me,
Yeah.
and I loved it. And then I went and played somebody else who was like, right now I'm in a place where I am trying so hard not to repeat myself, because luckily somebody maybe liked me on the thing they saw me last that I did, but like, nah, dude, I can't play an FBI agent every time, man.
Yeah.
Can't do it. Maybe next year, not this year. I need a second, you know?
Yep.
That's a conversation you have to have with yourself. Is like, what kind of artist do you want to be? Somebody who kills at one thing and stays in a lane, or do you want to have a diverse career? Like, everybody's different.
So just in the vein of time management, you're saying really most of your time should be with the creating, because there's so much we have to do. There's marketing, there's networking, there's going into the gym and working out, all these crazy things. I mean, I don't know, my day just, and I'm just a pretty regular guy. My day just goes like that, and I'm just wondering how do you manage your time and fit in that creativity and get to that higher level, like the time. How do you manage that time?
This is almost answering your question.
Yeah, you don't have to answer.
Just
directly,
as
it's just
getting to, it's going to get really close to answering, and then they're going to answer. But John said something. You were talking about the Groundlings, and I'm going to tell you one of the big things that made me realize I didn't want to be an actress anymore, because I think that's helpful, is also knowing. I was doing the Groundlings, and that was pretty funny. And I was in a class, and we were doing character work, and there was this one person who was so on all the time and so talented, and we would always walk down to the Snake Pit. Is that still on Melrose?
Yeah, Snake Pit.
Yeah, and we would always, when we'd drink after her, and I would talk to her, and she was all about it, and she was there for it, and she was a wonderful person, and she was just like a dream to be around, and she worked on her monologues, and she worked on her characters, and every character, and I would kind of be like, okay, I have to write a monologue, I guess, and she would come with these fully realized characters and works of art, and I was like, oh, I don't want to do that. Like, I want to like date, and I want to like go have brunch with my friends, and I was like, I don't know that this is the thing that I want to work at to be that good, and that was Melissa McCarthy.
I knew you were gonna say it. I knew it.
She is like the dearest, and I have not seen anyone coming up like just work that hard every single time and be as good. And she is super talented, but she is diligent. She
But can I
approaches
say
it
something
every day.
about you also in this story? Is that this is a perfect example of how we are truly all in this together. This town is a community of people all trying to do something great, okay? There is no us and them.
Absolutely.
She was an actor first. She totally knows what we've been through, and she chose another side of things. She can't get you the job, but she can hopefully get you in the door if she knows that you're right for it and you knows that you're going to bring some greatness, right? We are really all in this together. That's my point.
For sure. Amen.
Amen.
We should be going to the Q&A. I just wanted, do you guys, throughout this conversation, do you guys have any questions for each other, I guess, before we move to the audience? You guys good?
What's going to get picked up this year?
Yeah. There you go.
I have no idea.
Okay, so just to close up, I just want to hear some closing words from you guys, whatever order you want to speak. And the question is, what would you tell an actor to do this week or think about this week? And what would you tell them to do every week? We've kind of answered that, but I want to hear what you guys close with.
What would I tell them to do this week?
Yep.
Take all of our advice and do it
Yeah.
this week. And every week, again, be in class, be acting. Every week, act. Find a way to act. Boom.
I started my career in marketing and advertising agencies, and I worked on light beer and airlines and computers, all this stuff that was sort of homogenized. But the one thing we always talked about is, what is it that makes this product unique and different and stand out? And I would encourage you to think about the same way. What is it? What elements about you make you unique? What is it about you that's going to make you stand out from the crowd? And double down on those and use them and lean on them, because it's a theme that we've repeated here many, many times. It's about somebody seeing something in you that they I can use that, and that is different, and that is fresh, and I think that's going to work for this show or this movie. So think about that.
This week, take zinc. For real. And then also I would say surround yourself with artists of every medium. We are all doing the same thing. We need to be compassionate and empathic. We have to work on those things, and being an actor can put you in a silo and you can think about only yourself, and it can mess with you. Hang out with musicians, hang out with fine artists, hang out with dancers. Do that. Find your community. Make sure they're not just actors.
Yes. I had something completely else to say. It was like, do your best. But just thinking about what you just said is, we do. We all, as people, we all get into our little thing. I would say vote. Get involved in local elections.
Yeah.
I would say being an actor, you have this rare opportunity. I would say volunteer. I would say do good things for other people too, because as actors and artists, the more empathy we can have and all those great emotions that we can cultivate, that is going to serve you. If you volunteer with little kids, when you come in as a mom who has lost her kid, it sounds self-serving, and I'm just, as I'm saying it, I'm like, oh God, is that really dark? Be great people too. Be just wonderful people that creates positive change in your environment and your community, because it's going to make you also happy. And when there is so much not your jobs, if you have a life that is good and full and you're doing good things, those not your jobs are going to feel better than if all it is like, whoa, not another not your job. If you have a full life that you love and surround yourself, as we were all saying, with like other artists who are like-minded, you're going to have a really great life. And it's all going to work out.
Yeah, what she said. Yeah. So I would just say what I got out of this tonight, work on your mindset, because it is a marathon, it's not a sprint. And we want your energy to be right when you walk in that room. So we've got this amazing thing called the internet. You can go on YouTube, you can look at whatever your thing is. You can look at love, attraction, you can look at prayer, you can look at something spiritual, but just don't quit. Just be you and do you. And Liz's comment, give back, because it's going to come back to you guys. It's going to come back when you go into that audition room. So I'm just honored to be with these people to my left. They were a great group, so thank you.
Okay. Okay. So I want to thank all of you for being here tonight, and congrats for dreaming big and taking action, coming here, and to each and every one of you from us, we really hope this is your year. And you guys, I mean, thanks so much for sharing your precious time, especially this time of year. I mean, you guys are badass, and you're generous, and you're cool, and you're nice, and you're all artists. And I think I'm pretty safe in speaking for everybody in saying that, congrats on your amazing work, and you just make us very proud and inspired to be part of this large community that's just committed to making great TV. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Big hand for this panel. Yes. Thank you very much.